Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Couch Conversation with the Doctors. Um, we are so happy to join you this evening, and we're going to be able to discuss some topics that are of concern to the community as we are interested in informing and healing our community. So, we're going to start by introducing ourselves. I'm Dr. James Miller. I'm a retired internist. I retired after practicing about 40 years in the West Side, West Suburban, and even on the South Side. I had a practice. Um, I retired in 2019, and though I don't practice clinical medicine anymore, I'm still doing what I can to heal our community. So that's me. I see the Dr. Maya Green just joined us, and we'll ask Dr. Douglas Graham to go ahead and introduce himself. Dr. Graham.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Like Dr. Miller, I'm a retired physician. I worked in the western suburbs of Chicago for 30 years and then spent 2 years with a congressman in his office in Washington, D.C. It really opened my eyes to public health and public service. It's a very real honor to be here with the other doctors, and we're going to try and answer your questions as best we can.
Dr. Green, introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Dr. Maya 100. Always keeping it 100. You call me in the middle of texting Nikki, like, Nikki, that hair ain't fitting you. It ain't cute or whatever. Or, but it looks nice. I'm keeping it 100, saying hello to the community. Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, Nikki, for having this place where we can gather. It started during COVID because people needed a place. And for different reasons since then, people have continued to need a place to come in fellowship and hear facts, and express themselves. So thank you for having it. And I'm excited to get into the topic today.
Right. All right. Dr. Congressman Danny Davis is really the cause and the creation of this platform that we are on. And so happy to be here with him and to join him. So we'll ask Congressman to come in and to have something to say about this evening, and then maybe hope we can get going with some interesting topics of discussions. You mute, Congressman.
Unmuting.
Okay, there you
go. I think I ought to be okay. Let me thank all of you, Dr. Miller, Dr. Graham, Dr. Maya, Dr. 100, Dr. Nikki, Nicole Harvey, and all of those who might be on the line. And I tell you the reason why. I guess after a productive weekend, I've had such a great time Saturday and Sunday. Lord have mercy. I went to a great parade on Saturday that the Lockhart Institute had over on Chicago Avenue. And to see all of the people who were out there just enjoying themselves and really expressing community pride. The Lockhart's brother and a sister, one's a preacher and the other one could be a preacher too. But one handles the program side of what their church does, and the other one handles the spiritual ministerial operation. I've known their parents, so for many years, their father died and left the institution in their hands. They've taken it and added to it and developed it and just do a wonderful job. And so I had the opportunity to be with them and Alderman Emma Mitz on Saturday morning. And they must have had about 100 units in their parade. and people, young children out marching and having fun. The mayor stopped by. Of course, I was there, and State Representative Camille Lilly. So I just had a good time. But then I went over to Insight Hospital after that to a town hall meeting that State Senator Matty Hunter, Representative Duverger, and Representative Sandra Harper were having two state representatives and a state senator. We had a wonderful, wonderful discussion. Then I left there and went to Sherman Park, where a group of not-for-profits were having Senior Citizen Day, and they also had great music and entertainment and young people from the military schools in ROTC, and we just had a wonderful time. Then I left there and went to the Players Picnic over in Columbus Park. And these individuals who dress a certain way, walk a certain way, talk a certain way, play a certain way, they don't get in a hurry. They take their time. Of course, Bishop Magic One, who's actually had an amputation. He's lost one of his legs, but he has learned to walk with his medical devices and was up and at 'em. Then after all of that, I went out to Naperville, where we had a star-studded event, gave awards to some outstanding people, including Dr. Latif, who is the CEO of the Rush Medical Center, as well as a whole bunch of other people. We had the head of healthcare for the state of India. And so for the country I'm talking about, the biggest democracy in the world, India. And we just had a wonderful time. And so there's so many good things going on, as well as challenging things. But I always say that the good things outweigh the bad things. And so when people ask me how I'm doing, I have a tendency to say, I won't complain. That I could, I wanted to think of something. And I guess I had a little fun because I watched on television a little bit of the correspondence, the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which is designed to be a fun thing, but it didn't seem like they were having too much fun. The president has a way of I guess, taking some of the sweetness out of sugar, if you can do that. So they didn't seem to be having a good time. They were there, but not having a good time. But we're here on a Monday evening talking health. And of course, I don't care how much you talk, what you do, people are going to get sick. People are going to need physicians. They're going to need nurses. They're going to need hospitals. They're going to need Medicare. They're going to need Medicaid. And so we really are always trying to improve the quality of life. And that's what I think being a physician oftentimes is much about. So I want to thank all of you for taking the time out from other things that you could be doing to come and share with our viewers and our listeners and our participants on how do you make the world a better place in which to live, and how do you get the kind of health care and the health services that you need. So to be a part of that, to think that you may have something to do with that, kind of gives me a good feeling. So thank you all, and let's cook.
Very well. Thank you, Congressman Davis. As we're often talking about the struggles of healthcare and we talk about the good things that is produced, and but the things that we're struggling with in various communities, and the cost of healthcare is always a big issue. The healthcare budget, people are always complaining about it and saying that it's out of control, and you know but I think that we need to look at that and look at how can we what can we do in terms of the healthcare system that can make it better, can make it more effective? And is there something that we can do that will lower the cost of healthcare? When I look at things, the thing that that I always see is when we say cost oftentimes depend on what is required. The more procedures that's required, the more um, uh, inpatient care that's required because people have gotten sicker. Those are the things that's going to continue to drive up the cost of health care. So I think that we need to talk about how can we kind of circumvent some of those things. And and I believe that there are ways to do that. I mean, we've sort of hinted at it and talked about it to some extent, and it's prevention. How do we prevent these illnesses, these diseases from advancing, as opposed to finding them and then trying to kind of manage them? Not that we don't want to find and manage problems, but I think that we have to put emphasis on preventing diseases and preventing progression of diseases. And I think that we often talk about exercises and eating and making certain that you're seeing a physician. All these kinds of things are part of the thing that is necessary if we want to talk about how can we prevent diseases from progressing, how we can prevent people from getting certain diseases. And I think we got to even go back to, I think that one of the things that I remember when I was in school, we used to take a course called, it didn't make any difference what level or what were your academic abilities. They required us to take a course called health, where we had to learn about health. And it's surprised that that's not given in schools that much today. And so I think that we got to, so I just want to sort of get some things and throw out some ideas, and have my panel here to let's kick this around and let's see what we can come up with. And because again, the cost is not going to come down as long as disease run rampant, as long as people are not able or don't do the things that are necessary to stop these progression of the disease. Once you get hypertension, if you control it, if you get rid of it, then it doesn't do the damage. It does damage when it's out of control. So I'm going to open it up, and then I'm going to allow some others to come in, and let's discuss this process of healthcare for preventing diseases, and what can we do and what should we be doing in terms of approaching this problem.
Well, I already one thought, one issue. In the early 1970s, as something emerged, health maintenance became a big topic of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the evolution of the development of health maintenance organizations, with the idea being that if you could maintain individuals, get them to a certain state, then maintain. This would drive down the cost of medicine and health. And it was a big rave. I mean, big discussions. I actually ended up working for the Department of Health Maintenance Organization Service of the federal government, HMOS. They hired a bunch of people, and I was one of those that they hired to become a consultant. I worked for a lady named Dr. Helen Retta, who was the head of Region 5, HMOS. And we started, I worked with two beginning health maintenance organizations, HMOs. One was the Michigan Health Maintenance Organization Plan in Detroit, Michigan, that was started by the Black doctors in Detroit. The Medical Foundation, they started something called MIHOP, the Michigan Health Maintenance Organization Plan, which became Omni Healthcare. And I remember there were things, marketing wars were going on because people who started these plans were trying to get as many patients as they could. And so they provided incentives for people to sign up. You might get a television set. You may get, it was just, and this is rocked on to where health maintenance now is a concept that almost everybody adheres to. And I do believe that it does save money. I'm saying that if you can keep people at a certain stage, then their health may not get to another stage where it is requiring different levels of treatment that will cost much more to do. So I think that is working, and we probably just don't get a chance to do as much of it as perhaps could be done. And we would reduce the cost of healthcare in that way if these systems actually are working as fully as they possibly could. That's the Davis thought about it.
I'll join the group. Dr. Hampton, South Side of Chicago at Advocate Health, and it's important to be hopeful because what's the alternative? The alternative is that we just status quo, right? So for me, if we were to one of the things I've learned about myself is that I try to be apolitical in a way. I have my preference in terms of ideology of parties, right? So I had to be apolitical when it comes to RFK saying that we're going to require medical schools to teach nutrition to the physicians, right? So if you can bear this idea that someone on the other side of the aisle suggested that, I would suggest that you bear it, because what took us so long, right? Now, I don't know what they're going to teach if that's a requirement, but I would start there, because the average doctor will probably have 2,000 to 3,000 or so patients, right? So if I can impact that one clinician, then I will impact 2,500 patients. So to me, that's where we start. We start with the next generation of clinicians, and we say to them, we don't want you to just learn all of this information so you'll know how to diagnose diseases. We want you to always peel the onion until you understand why somebody got it in the first place. And then I want you to put all your energy into not only treating that condition so they can stabilize. I don't want them to have a 200 blood pressure and then have a stroke, a bleeder. I had a patient today who had a subdural hematoma, right? I don't want that to happen, but I do want to ask, while keeping the pressure down, while treating the patient, why did they have a high blood pressure in the first place? And then we focus on that. So if we can teach the next generation not only that food is medicine, but that they should never settle for those diagnoses, idiopathic. We're not really sure why you're sick. We just know you're not sick anymore, so we're going to send you home. And we pray it don't happen again. So, and I'm all for prayer. But to me, if I'm the patient, I want to know more than just, we don't know. And the good news in healthcare is that we will continue to find solutions. The other good news is maybe we don't just ask this panel these questions. I know some people get a little nervous about AI, but AI is going to help us answer a whole lot of questions. And I can't wait until the day when they combine these quantum, this big quantum computer thingy that's going to be next to Advocate or Trinity Advocate is going to be on the lakefront. They haven't really combined that technology, supercomputers, with AI yet. Imagine what happens then. So you can have the most astute, well-trained librarian in the country, and you ask her to find a needle in a haystack in the library, and she will eventually find it because she's the best in the country. But the technology, it may find that needle in the haystack is much quicker to find. So my hope is that if we can focus on what matters, which is why do we get sick and how to prevent it, and we have people who are motivated, the clinicians, the health systems, the politicians, everybody's motivated for the same purpose. We have no excuses because eventually the technology combined with the purpose of achieving those goals is going to lead us to places we've never seen. I remember the day when hepatitis C had a treatment. I think for most of us, we were like, huh? How did that happen, right? And that was before all of this technology came. So I really think cancer treatment, even how we answer questions around the cost of care and reducing it. If we have the will to do those things, we will have the technology. And we see it happening all around us.
Question I have in regards to what you just talked about, Dr. Hampton, is how much is the effect of money determines how things are done. In other words, as long as the driving force is to do whatever it is to make more money,
right,
then and you don't incentivize people who prevent diseases,
right,
then there's a problem. Because now everybody has bills to pay, so you've got to do what you have to. You need revenue.
That's
So
right.
so how do you so it has to be some kind of adjustment
That's
in terms of the economics of healthcare that that leads the way and rewards more than just procedures and the things that remove diseases. We don't we want the disease to remove, but I think that it is just as important to I think there's a saying that I think that everybody knows that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and what that means to me that it is that I'm better off if I can prevent you from having a problem than I am trying to fix it after you get it. that you're better off if that be the situation. If I can prevent you from getting it, you are in a better situation than me trying to fix it once you get it. So what do we do with these economic incentives? I mean, teaching is important, but also but there has to be some incentive, some rewards to those that work on that in their daily work, because I mean, primary care people need to be incentivized to concentrate more on prevention, because that's, I'm assuming that that's the group that's going to see the largest number of people who are seeking health care.
Yeah. I think that there's good news, because we all know that we're the country where we are the only really developed industrial country that doesn't have like universal health care, right? So we don't, there's anytime I learn something, I try to honor who I am. So if we have a capitalistic society, there may be a way to honor that while also learning from others, right? And I know what we've attempted to do with these population health organizations, advocates, one of them, is to kind of bundle the care in such a way. And they do this in the Netherlands too. And there's probably a gazillion examples, but you bundle everything around the patient, whether it's the physician, the nurse, the pharmacy team, the dietary person, the lab people. Everybody has one simple goal, is to make sure the patient receives all the resources they need to prevent them from going to the hospital, to make sure when they need care, they get it in a timely fashion. And that bundled model is what we're asking the government to do today, which is, would you be willing to pay me to deprescribe? Would I get a bonus when my 10A1C for diabetes goes to a 5.6 and I deprescribe medicines, which is going to reduce the cost? They're not on insulin anymore. They're not on Jardiance. They're not on metformin. They're not using testing strips every day or 2 or 3 times a day. So we start looking at all those costs. Would you pay me a bonus, which I will not just go to the mall with? I won't just go buy a purse or a new car. I'm actually going to take some of that money and create more programs to keep people out of the hospital. So it's kind of a win-win, because our current model is sick care, right? So
yeah.
And I'm grateful that they pay me more to have sick patients, because it takes more resources. But we don't have to eliminate that model. We just add the other model saying, you know what? You got this patient on 20 meds. We're going to pay you for the extra time. Oh, by the way, you just took this other patient off of 20 meds. We're going to pay you extra for that. And then what happens is the entire system has to be in a wrapped around that, because if I keep people out of the hospital, how's the surgeon going to make a living? He needs to do surgery, and maybe that surgery he would have done, he can't do anymore because that patient doesn't require that surgery, which was, related to diet and things of that nature. So what we have to do is we have to make them whole as well. We say to them, you're going to get here's the money that you get just because you're in part of the team. And yes, there may be some incentive to do more care, but even that person, the bariatric surgeon who I refer people to, who does bariatric surgery, if he's part of the team, we're going to make sure the bariatric surgeon is whole. So he'll be incentivized to refer people to Dr. Hampton's weight loss program that doesn't involve surgery. So yes, it sounds like pie in the sky, but if it wasn't for examples in other countries, I would think this was crazy. The Netherlands, countries like England, Denmark, they are already doing these things. So we have a country full of smart people who are not incentivized to, they kind of do this. because it's not part of our model. And if it becomes part of our model, my buddies down the street who just happen to own the insurance companies, that's going to be a problem for the insurance company. So, but with that model, if the insurance company saves money, they make more money. The problem is if you go too far, then do you need an insurance company? And the answer is you don't, because that's like I love mob movies. I don't want to be overly dramatic, Danny, because Dr. Davis, I don't want you to kick me off the platform, but they're like the mob at times because they control the money and the resources. And I don't know that model makes a lot of sense, but if we are going to have that model, we have to make sure that their agenda is not just profit. I just don't think healthcare should be a profit model. I don't think education should be a profit model. But I understand. I live in this country where it is, so I'm not going to say throw it all in the ocean. I just think that in order to look more like our neighbors in other countries, we have to be willing to make dramatic change. And I don't know if it's going to be some pain, and you have to make people whole. It's almost like guns. If you get rid of guns, you have to. How do you deal with the people whose livelihood are guns, right? You have to find a path for them to become whole. And I don't know what that path is, but I think that other people have done it, and we need to learn from those other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with with the picture that you're painting. But I think that also, in terms of making those who are doing things that are high cost, that ultimately they'll become more. Some people decide to take a specialty because that specialty makes more money, and that might be their driving force. But if there's something else that's making more money, and that's what their driving force is, they may be more inclined to spend more time doing those kinds of things. And I think that's the idea here is to get folks to our ultimate thing here is about saving and helping people, and saving and helping people should never be um, um, less important than the money that people make who do the work. That's going to always be a problem as long as it is a driving force and determine how people approach healthcare, how they determine what to do in terms of patients that they are seeing. So I think that that those things has to be put in place and make certain that they are solid, and that they are done in such a way that it changes mind. It changes people's desires. I'm going to do. I want to make more money, so there's more money in prevention now. So if that's what the driving force is. But we all really should. If we're concerned about people being healthy and happy and being well, then who would ever rather to see a person be operated on for a brain tumor as opposed to making certain that we prevent that problem? So I think that has to be an important have an important role in that chapter is changing the incentive in terms of why people decide to do it. If economics, and since we live in a capitalistic society, but again, the capitalism or the profit can't be more important than the patient and the people. That has to always be, these are lives, and we can never, we shouldn't put profit. Somebody's profit should never. But I'm sure that's part of the problem that we're dealing with, though, as things are now. The pharmaceutical company wants to give more medicine because they want you to prescribe more drugs because that benefits them, and they're investing their money. But what happens if they are incentivized to do things that are going to keep people from getting sick, and they can still make money? So that's what I'm saying. Whatever it is, they need to make certain that it changes people's thought process and lead them to do things that keep people healthy, and be more interested in investing in those tools that keep people from getting sick. Dr. Meyer and Dr. Graham.
So I'm with you, Dr. Miller and Dr. Hampton. And the term that I've heard, which I really like, is called stakeholder alignment. Because I think the biggest problem is the patient goes to the doctor and wants to be well. The doctor wants to prescribe the medication. But wait a minute, there's somebody says, well, we don't want you to use X, we want you to use Y because we can make more money. We don't know that that drug is going to be the best one for you, but we know it's going to be the best one for our profits. And the same thing about ordering a test or ordering a procedure. There's so many things that are being done where they're conflicting interests. And all that does is cause delays. And it turns out to be very, very expensive. And that means that that premium dollar as an investment, instead of going to help that patient, is going to help all kinds of other people who aren't the ill ones. So I think that what we're really talking about is having a system where it is pay for performance and that nobody gets paid until people get better. And I think that would change a lot of this. You know, doctors who prescribe the wrong medication don't get paid the same as the doctors who do. Or doctors who make the wrong diagnosis don't get paid as well as the ones who do. It's like in sports. The guys who can hit the baseball, throw or catch the football, do the tackle, get paid better the guys who are average. But we don't have that system. I think that that's something that we need to think about. And I think universal healthcare means that that has to be the universal goal. You can't decide to care for people. You have to have the same goal for everybody. Everybody should have the same standard of care, same good health, the same access to healthy foods, to healthy medications, healthy air, healthy water. Because if you do one but you don't do the others, you may not get to your goal. So I think that we just have to have minimum standards for good health as part of the pillar of that universal healthcare system. And everyone has to be aligned to achieving that goal, because bottom line is a healthy population is a healthy economy. An unhealthy population is an unhealthy economy that tends to be very, very expensive. So it just makes common sense, economic sense, social and justice sense to do it that way. Dr. Meyer, you're muted.
I was just listening because there's a lot that comes to mind. There's a book called Under the Skin by Linda Villarosa, and she talks about historical truths about what happens when kind of we build a system that is meant to give equal health care to everyone, and without being intentional about the most impacted groups of people that live in the U.S., there will be such a sort of a mission drift back to what we are today, regardless of whether it's for capitalistic reasons or anything, because inherent in it's not just the insurance that drives it. It's the people, it's the doctors, it's the decision makers in the room, and through the process. So definitely kind of looking at that. Then there's something called The Political Determinants of Health. And then there's a book called, I think, The Long Fix, that I'll talk about that and how to avoid that mission drift. It does go back to what Congressman Davis was saying about making sure people are well enough to never end up in a situation where their life is based on our bias in an acute situation, right? So what that translates, how I understood it, was taking care of, primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention. Primary prevention is everything you do to make sure. I will take diabetes because someone mentioned diabetes, or I don't know if someone mentioned diabetes or high blood pressure, but high blood pressure. Primary prevention is everything I do to make sure my arteries and veins, like my blood vessels, stay nice and healthy, and my heart never experiences that pressure to start with. right? And then the secondary will be like, I check for it, and everybody I find who has this increasing blood pressure, I make those lifestyle changes. Dr. Miller, you talked about it. I make the lifestyle changes. So yes, we found out I have high blood pressure. Now I make the lifestyle changes, right? That is nutrition, exercise, things like that. Both of those things, I either make sure right now during primary or I make sure during secondary after I've been diagnosed. Both of those things prevent what happens in the hospital or what happens at the place where my blood pressure out of the hospital gets so high and I don't have access to care. Something happened, my insurance got cut off. I think, Dr. Graham, you mentioned I have access to this pill and not that one, or Dr. Hampton, one of them. That is where the decisions start going awry because there's systemic bias, in the system. And then when I experienced that, in a tertiary situation, meaning my blood pressure is so high, now I got to do something about it. The end result of high blood pressure, when the heart is having such a hard time getting blood everywhere. If it doesn't get enough blood to my brain, I'm gonna have a stroke. If it doesn't get enough blood to my eyes, I'm gonna go, either have a stroke in my eye or have blindness. If it doesn't get enough blood to itself, I'm gonna have a heart attack. If it doesn't get enough blood to the kidneys, I'm gonna have kidney failure, and so on and so on and so on. Where I'm at the tertiary stage where my heart isn't able to pump enough blood to my organs. And now people are making decisions. I had a heart attack. Which medicine do I have? Oops, they forgot to give me oxygen. Oops, they forgot to give, the beta blocker rule. Is that still in place? They're making those decisions at the last minute from a biased mind. And so all that goes together to say in the book, Under the Skin, one of the solutions proposed more community health workers, meaning people that are in your everyday environment, in your neighborhood. They know this, you all don't have a store that has healthy foods. They know where the healthy foods are or how to access them from where you are in your zip code. Your community health workers to go out, talk about high blood pressure, being that access point to checking high blood pressure. What does it mean? And having those conversations in a language appropriate to the community because they're from the community. That was the most out of all the books in literature. That was the most that one made more sense because how many times have we all, even though we're physicians, done something based on our cultural understanding that was successful, but the person that told us was like my mama. My mama gives way better healthcare advice. Oh, you look like you're gonna have a cold tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a study that shows people's mother can look at you and say you look like you're going to be sick, and they were more accurate than the doctors. There is.
Yes.
So the community health workers, my mom who's like, you better drink you some hibiscus tea. I've never had an elevator. My family, everybody got it, but the people who drink that tea, I just got my blood pressure check, and they had to do it 3 times. They was like, are you supposed to be 110 over 60? And I'm almost 50 now, so the people take healthcare into your culture, into your tribe. That's the primary prevention we need because a lot of the primary prevention, sometimes it only reaches certain neighborhoods and things like that. So talks like this, that's another form where we talk about these things, make these suggestions. So that's why it was so important what Congressman Davis did with this. Because here is where you can take those things, make those suggestions, make sure every time you go to the doctor, your blood pressure is like, you still got blood pressure are you dizzy? You're like, nah, it always come out like that. I've never had, and the exercise activity. So long story short, everything everybody said, and according to those books, most of them end in build healthcare prevention, well, build preventive health into your culture, amongst your culture. So it's a cultural thing, not just a clinical thing. Because by the time it becomes a clinical thing, it's based on the bias or not of the healthcare system that your zip code is in. So I think
That
that's
that
okay.
that those are some that makes all the sense in terms of what we this what this discussion is about is and so that is it. I mean, as Dr. Meyer is talking, and I'm thinking back, my grandma, you know, um, they a certain time of the year, they went, they made certain they gave everybody something to prevent their children from getting sick. Um, whether what I'm saying is, so the idea whether it was the most effective thing, and I think that it was probably fairly effective with some of the things that there was something called I don't know. I'm not sure if I can pronounce it. Called asbestos or something of that nature. Congressman Davis probably know it, but it was some of the worst smelling stuff that you can think of, and they used to give it to children when one of the kids got got a cold or got some communicable diseases, and people used to ask, say, well, you know, why did that work? And what it, and my my analysis is that what it did, it made when the kid that was sick got it, the other kids went away from him because he smelled so bad. So you really did not, you weren't up in his face. And so it may not have prevented the disease, but it prevented you from doing the thing to catch the problem. So, but what I'm saying is their idea was to come up with things that keep keep their family well, and it was essential because maybe the physician wasn't readily available for a lot of them, or they could not afford the care, and so they then began to utilize their brain to help them to work on things that they had figured out to keep them from getting so sick that they needed a doctor. And so so I think that again, because what we're talking about, not that we want to need we won't need doctors, but we can, but certainly, I mean, one of the things that Dr. Hampton was speaking of is that, well, we don't want to, we want to have a way to make whole the guy that does the procedure that costs so much money. Well, I want to make him whole, but also I don't want him to have to do too many of these procedures,
Mm-hmm.
because not because I don't want him to make money, but because I don't want that many people sick with these dreadful end stage, debilitating disease processes. And so, so if that becomes the issue, then a whole bunch of going into specialties where there's only a few patients that has these kind of problems, and they may be excellent at it, but we might not need as many physicians to do that, and maybe they'll then begin to do other things that you know that prevent folks from getting sick, because that's how they can earn get revenue. So yeah, I mean so I think that those things have to come into play if we want this process to work. And again, not only Dr. Meyer hit the point that the community has to be taught and have to become actively involved in preventing diseases and preventing problems, and doing those things to help recognize diseases, and before they a person get to the point that they're in stage and there's little that you can do to change their life and their and their health.
Yeah, I'll just add that, my Dr. Maya talked about how mommies can diagnose things, and it makes sense practically because mama knows her baby, because she not only did she carry that baby forever, 9 months, knows all their tendencies, right? But she also knows what a healthy version of that baby looks like. And it's just, imagine a doctor trying to, if we go to the other end of the spectrum. I remember my wife's dad was around, and you wouldn't know he had dementia in the beginning, right? but the family know. They know because they've observed what the doctor couldn't observe in a 15, 20-minute appointment. So imagine if we are going to have a chance as a clinician to diagnose things, imagine a system which says, when I do an obesity clinic on Wednesdays, I don't get 15 minutes, I get 30 minutes per patient. And in that 30 minutes, I can be Inspector Gadget. I can peel that onion and try to figure out, why does this person struggle with their weight? Where in a 15-minute appointment, less time to peel the onion. So you have to make assumptions. And that's what doctors and advanced practice clinicians do. They say, okay, give me just a little bit of information. And as soon as I hear something I know makes sense, I'm going to say that's what it is, right? It's like,
yeah.
and you may be right, most of the time. But having had a little bit more time, actually, this happened. I can't remember exactly what the case was, but even today, at the end of the visit, the patient said, oh, by the way, here's another thing I forgot to mention. And that opened the case. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
ding, 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 ding. It's like, okay, that was the thing I was missing. But if you don't give people a chance to talk and communicate, and you don't train doctors to listen, that's what Beyonce said, listen, in one of her songs, right? If we would just pause for a second and listen, we would probably be so much better at this. And so part of the system that we would design would give the world more primary care doctors who focus on wellness, less people who are specialized, pay everybody a reasonable amount of money so nobody's afraid to go into wellness, and then give them a little bit more time. And maybe in those other countries, they also have more time.
Yeah.
Now, in our model, we may have to create a model where we just have places we can send them to learn and to grow, and to maybe a metabolic clinic and a pharmacy team. That's kind of what we do now. But I think if we gave our clinicians more time to actually think and to listen and understand what's going on at home, I think that, or just to hear a person finally admit that they, didn't refill the prescription because they couldn't afford to, right? If we can finally hear that, then maybe they'll then hear from us, oh, by the way, we got a program for that. We have a resource for that. We just didn't know. We thought you were being a non-compliant patient. And in reality, you're just embarrassed, and you're so proud that you didn't want to say anything. So we have a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, but I'm just grateful that I'm optimistic. If we use technology, we have people who are doing things for the right reason. I think there's hope. So please, whoever's watching us today, don't lose hope. Just advocate for the right things and put pressure on the people who have power to do the right thing. And if we do that, there's a path for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Outstanding.
Go ahead.
Outstanding. Well, I think I'm back up and working now. I've had a few technical difficulties. And then some thunder happened and my lights went out. So I had to get all that stuff back together. But we want to say hey to Yolanda Williams. She's here and she says good evening to all. Angela Underwood is here and she says good evening just as well. I see my sister Melanie Winston is here. And she says that she is drinking hibiscus tea right now. Hey, sis. All right, Tyra Perry Brown is here. Hey, Tyra, how are you? Angela Underwood also says healthy eating, exercise, and having a healthy mindset plays a key part. Well, thank you so much, Angela, because you are absolutely right. And Melanie says hello to the entire team. Well, we want to say hey to President Carrie Steele, who is here with us just as well. The guys over in the garage are here. And we want to say hey to our Chicago's finest, and also to our I'll say their partner, our Chicago's finest, our Chicago Fire Department just as well. I want to say hey to the Black Fire Brigade, who is here with us also, and so many more. I know you guys hate when I say this, but it's our time. And right before I say it's our time, just want to remind everyone of our 47th year annual back to school picnic parade and World Health Day that will be happening on August 15th. That's Saturday, August 15th, right in Columbus Park. Vendors, you are welcome. I have put the link on my page. So if you want to be a vendor, it's free. You can come out and be a vendor on that time, share your information. I'm gonna make sure that I repost that also again. And then to all of our healthcare providers, want to make sure that you know we will be celebrating along with you. We have that meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m. in our office and also virtual for National Health Week that is coming up, and that is August 2nd through the 8th. So we're going to be doing a ton of things throughout that week, and we're going to be asking everyone to continue to be those great community partners. Well, Tony, Dr. Hampton, our weight loss guru, what is your until next Monday?
Well, just being grateful. I think that oftentimes I hear stories in clinic of people who are going through something. And what I've discovered is that everybody's going through something, right? And sometimes you think it's just you. And sometimes it may be just you who lost 3 family members in the last couple of months, right? That's a bit much. But I just want to remind people that when you're asking the world to be a better place, while you're waiting for it to get better, whatever you can do in your family to make it better, do that. If you're in a position of power, or if you have a passion that can make the world a better place, do that. But never lose hope, because it may be your inspiration that inspired the right person at the right time to have the impact we need to see. So I just want to leave our viewers with the sense of hope, because it is honestly people who don't give up on themselves, don't give up on the world. It's usually those people who then change the world. So just hold on to that, and just know that the world is always going to be a little chaotic, but it's also a beautifully made place that I see miracles every day. So let's just find that miracle that you need to see so that you'll stay hopeful and grateful for the world we live in.
Absolutely. Staying hopeful. Well, Dr. 100, what's your until next Monday?
It all goes back to the people that we're around looking for protective tribes. Know who your resources are. Resources, while people may think one of the best resources is money, some of the best resources are love, patience, peace, long suffering, goodness. She read it now. Love, joy, those type of things. All the fruits of the spirit and the sources you find them in. Those will prove and are proven right now to be more valuable than any money you can have. You know, also you want to know where your resources for community are. And who you can reach out for mental health. Who you talk to for spiritual wellness and how you grow yourself. And then, so that the circle completes itself, at a time like this, know what kind of resource you are to community, and you would have more success with that than anything else. All right, until next Monday.
Absolutely. Being a resource and staying hopeful. These are great. Love the team, because the team was taking over and making sure we stayed on target. So, Dr. Miller, I thank you so much for tonight. I thank you for stepping in at the last minute when I was having so many issues. And Dr. Miller, what's your until next Monday?
I want to just remind people that there's a lot of things in our lives that makes us better, make us feel better, that doesn't cost money. It's for free. Loving somebody doesn't cost. Caring for others doesn't cost you anything. And these are things that have great value in terms of communities, in terms of people being able to live together, understanding that we only got a certain amount of space, and we all got to live in that space. And if we work together and we care for one another, we love each other, I think that we can live in that space a lot easier and be a lot happier than if we are always in conflict with each other. And just so we have to look for that. We have to look for how do we, instead of looking for what make me upset, I have to look for what create peace, what gonna bring me happiness. Most of the time, if you're in a conflict with somebody, most of the time that generally brings more conflict to your life, because even if you win the initial part, that person that you won from is upset. And if they're following that same trend, they're basically trying to do something to get one up on you. But when somebody offers love, and that love will tend to bring love in return. So we just got to do some of those things, and we'll have a little bit less worry about what we don't have if we begin to use the stuff that we do have, which will make us better and happier as a community, as a world.
Outstanding. Well, Dr. Miller, you sparked something when you started with your Until Next Monday, and we got 4 of the same questions. I'm going to tell you that question, but we're going to answer it next week. And they said, are you sure love doesn't cost anything? Can it cost your heart? So we'll answer that question next week. I'm going to lay that in you guys' lap for you to deal with it. And Dr. Doug, what's your Until Next Monday?
Well, I just want to echo what Dr. Miller said. And for those of us who have retired, those who have the best and the richest retirements and the best intellectual or cognitive function are those who maintain and develop relationships. And I do think that that's a very important component of health that really hasn't been stressed as much as other things. So I just want to say hats off to Dr. Miller, a great suggestion. And that's my thought until next week.
Okay, wonderful. I want to say hey to Senator Maddie Hunter and her staff who are also watching. Hey, Angela, how are you? Well, Congressman, as always, take us home.
Well, I'm glad to know that Senator Hunter is watching, and Angela McLemore is also with her, because I mentioned that I was with them on Saturday over at Insight Hospital, where we just had ourselves a wonderful, wonderful discussion about health as well as a number of other things. But I think, Dr. Miller, you did start something. This business of love. When I read the good book, there's a piece in there that says, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and if I have not charity, meaning love, then I am nothing. And though I would have the gift of prophecy and knoweth all things, everything, I'm still nothing. Of course, the blues singer say that, your loving give me such a thrill, but your loving don't take my feel. That the best thing in life for free, give it to the birds and bees, because I need money. So I guess, it all kind of wraps itself together. And it all does come together. And yes, we do live in a capitalistic society. Capitalism is our way of life. And some people are more capitalistic than others. And some people pursue it more diligently than others. But the wise guys, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, all of these guys at some point injected levels of humanity and humanitarian existence that if you give the best that you've got, you know, it's kind of like you can't do much more. You've done your part. And if you continue to do that, I think it means that when the end comes, and there will be an end, when the end comes, you will kind of be ready to ride out. And off into the never, 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 never land you will go. So keep loving, keep being, and keep riding. So thank you all wonderfully. And I'll look forward to next month. Have a good night. And thanks all.
Outstanding. Good night, everyone. Dr. Miller, Angela
Yes.
McLemore said it's an asphyxity bag.
Okay, okay, that's the one smell bad.
Smell bad.
Good night.
Good night.